Jack McCloskey, welcome to the Happy Days podcast with me, Callum Church. It's a brand new episode, and today I've got you here for a guest episode. It's going to be super exciting. Before we get started though, Jack, do you want to just introduce yourself for the audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I'd love to, brother. Thank you for having me on here. And first of all, mate, great pronunciation of the name. McCloskey ain't easy. A lot of people stuff it up, and you said it perfectly. So well done to you.
Good.
So a little bit about me. So it's always a funny question. Is like, where do I start? I'll give you a good background for my journey. I am a normal lad, right? I studied economics at university. I went into recruitment after that, sales, and then I saved enough money and I went traveling. Traveling was the real start of the start is when you're born, right? But my journey, right? Because I was going traveling, I was partying a lot this time, sleeping about, that kind of thing, all those good stuff. And then I went to a monk sanctuary. Yeah. So here's this guy who's partied, has taken drugs, does his thing, just a party man, right? And I absolutely love the party days. Sometimes I look back and a part of me wishes I could go back there, but it's just not really my scene anymore as much as of yet. But then, living with the monks, bro, waking up at 4 a.m., meditating for 2 hours, then going to breakfast for an hour, then meditating from 7 till 12, then going from lunch 12 till 1, and then going from 1 till 10 meditation. Bear in mind, it's a silent retreat as well. So someone who's like, a classic Jack the lad goes out there wild, is fucking loud, right? Still am loud, but then you're just silent and you're just meditating. And, looking back on it, that was a real profound game changer for me of just like really going inwardly, really seeing all my thoughts for what they were, really like learning all these lessons. I was only there for about 4 days. And then after that, it is the case that, from traveling to Australia, working there, I started meditating about 2-3 times a week. Then it got to a point, it's actually like I noticed a slight difference in my day when I didn't meditate compared to when I did. So then it just became a ritual for me. And then in Australia, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to start my own business. Went back home, started my own business, e-com business, and then set up 2 of them from there, had success with them both. And then this is how I got in the coaching game, really, because it's like the entrepreneurship really helped me get into like personal development. Like, I was working and then I was like reading books. And at this time as well, I was also meditating. So the books could vary from like money books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, to anything like The Power of Now, the classic Eckhart Tolle, so then you start learning about the ego and that kind of thing. And then since then, man, it's like I've just been obsessed, and I mean obsessed with it. I do a thing called transcendental meditation now, which is like Sanskrit, like meditation. I've got a mentor now who's like, been mega wealthy. He's super spiritual, invested a lot of money into him. And since then, man, like that gives you, I suppose, a good image of my journey. But as of who I am, like I'm just a happy. I've got a big heart. Like my mission on planet Earth is just to serve as many people as I can. I mean, this podcast is a great opportunity for that, which I'll be eternally grateful for. And that gives you a real good feel. I'm also like, I feel like I'm an extremist, right? So I'm like an extreme introvert. Like this COVID period, I've just gone inward, meditation, working on business, kept myself to myself. But at the same time, I know that you'll get this vibe. I'm also like an extrovert, as in like I love having fun. I'm loud, that kind of thing. So I'm like an extremist of both of those.
I'm exactly the same. Literally, I will shut myself in this room and just work away all day. But then I'll hop on a podcast like this, or I'll just get on like a 20-minute call with someone else or whatever. And then suddenly it's just like explosion, just all the energy comes out. Or I'll be working all day. I'll come downstairs, speak to my family, and I'll be a fucking nutcase because I've got so much like energy.
That's like me, bro. That is exactly like me.
Yeah. So first of all, let's take it back. So you went traveling, right? Where'd you go? Because this is something I'm thinking about at the moment. I'm thinking about planning a trip to go to Bali, like when it opens. It's opening in July, I think. So I'm gonna hopefully go September if COVID allows. We'll see. But literally what you went out and did, the spiritual retreats and all that sort of stuff, silent retreats, exactly what I want to do, so
mate,
where'd you go?
Go. So I did Southeast Asia, including Bali. I was in Bali for 2 months actually. And I'm going back there this year, hopefully by the end of the year. So I might see you out there.
We'll see.
But yeah, Southeast Asia. So Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Bali, Singapore, and then finished in Australia. So I was gone for about a year, I think. Highly recommend it, man. Fuck. Yeah. So good.
I've always been one of those guys who's always said, yeah, I'll go traveling. I want to go traveling, but never fucking did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to like push myself, book a flight, get out there for, you know, at least a month and a half, hopefully 2 months.
Bro, do it, man. And the fact that you even like, oh, I've never fucking done it, is like that tiny bit of regret. Some people go their whole lives without ever doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you just don't be that person, man, that like when they get older just says, oh, I wish I went traveling, or I wish I did this. Like, you know, some people, they have like it's hard, right? Because you have, after uni, you have this expectation, you want to get a job, save money for a house, that kind of thing. But like, I'm telling you now, like, go do these experiences. The money will follow, man. Money literally does grow on trees. I mean, I know that actually it's plastic now, so that probably the saying doesn't work anymore. But like, there's an infinite amount of money out there, man. Like, you can go traveling and get inspired from something, and then it sets your heart on fire, and then you come back home and start a business exactly like me, and then you earn that money back. You know, so like, I just feel inspired to say, like, if you do have the urge to go traveling, like, just save up for it and go traveling, man. You won't regret it. I mean, you know, the worst that can happen is that you can just rent a place for your rest of your life. Like, who gives a fuck, man? Like, whatever your heart desires, I'm one for saying follow that and just never stop following that.
Yeah, 100%, man. But you know, the one difference between the people that do and the people that don't, and literally you've just identified it there, is just purely mindset, you know, like the people that hold themselves back, or the people that may struggle with money in the future or whatever, it purely comes from their mindset, right? Because they think money doesn't grow on trees, and they think, you know, they're worried more about the discomfort of going abroad and traveling and pushing them outside their comfort zone. And that's the fucking difference between the kind of life that you live, which we can talk about, because this is what you're about, isn't it?
Yes, sir. This is exactly what I'm about. And you hit the nail on the head there. And everything, right? We are complex human beings. Our psychology on things are insane. But if you actually look at the root of every decision you ever make, it stems down from two things: fear or love. It's always fear or love. So it's like, if you don't want to go traveling, it's either because, like, you know, you might have fear of like, oh, that money, you know, spending that much money when it could go to a house, or like you said, fear of like going by myself because no one else wants to go, or fear of leaving, you know, who I am behind and this image that I have of myself, or, you know, I could come up with a load of fears. And I almost want to say it's normal to have fear, but at the same time, the more spiritual books you read, you understand that fear is actually an illusion that comes up in the head. The other side of it, of love, fear's in the head, love's from the heart. As moist as that sounds, it's just science now. It is just science now. They have 40,000 neurons in your heart. So like, you can actually, you know, why do people love falling in love? Why do people love going to see sunsets? Because it connects them to that. So like, just like something that is very important, it's such an easy thing, is if you're going to do a big decision, like a part of you really wants to go traveling, like a little whisper, that little, you know, and then your brain comes in, you start like, oh no, fear this, fear that, fear that. Just put your hand on your heart, and be like, what do I want to do? What does the core me want to do? Something that I always ask myself whenever I'm doing it. I was even going for a run the other day, 14 degrees, the sun was out, and I really wanted to take my shirt off and just run with my shirt off. But then in my mind, it was like, you know, what are people going to think? You know, is it too fucking hot? And I was like, who gives a flying fuck, man? I mean, seriously. I was like, and this is something I always ask myself. If there was nobody in the world, like Will Smith-esque, you know, an I Am Legend, when it's just him, like, what would I do? And it was like, I'd be running with shirtless right now because I want to get the sun rays and I want to just get a tan. I was like, well, fucking take your shirt off then, and don't let fear hold you back. So it's like, if ask yourself that question: if no one was in the world, but the world was operating as normal, there was flights, that kind of thing, there was just AI flying you about everywhere, what would you do? You still had to spend the money, but no one else there was in the world. What would you do? And if the answer is go traveling, then you've got your answer.
Yeah, exactly. And that is purely essentially following your heart, thinking with your heart and following your heart. I was talking to a guy called Tobias, who's actually an upcoming episode. It will be out by the time that this episode goes out. And again, he was talking about the neurons in your heart and how you can actually think with your heart. And not a lot of people actually identify this and think about this or talk about this even, which is why I'm bringing it up now. It's because everyone's so identified with their mind, but really it's the ego in their minds. It's the rational, more, you know, the more rational ego, the actual mind, as opposed to the actual you, the actual authentic heart you, if that makes sense.
Make perfect sense. Like, think about, I mean, it's the amygdala in your brain.
Yeah, fear.
Fight or flight. You know, bear jumps around at the corner back in the day. It's like, fuck, should I fight this big fucker or should I run from him? You know, but now we've evolved and that kind of thing. It's like, everybody, I know everybody has a brain, like a 10,000-year-old brain, and everyone obviously has a heart, but it's like your heart, the desires that you have within your heart is what makes you separate to everyone else. You're 1 in 400 trillion to be here. Like, you ain't here by chance, man. You know, you seriously know, everybody listening to this, every pair of ears listening to this is not here by chance. The only thing is with society and with your upbringing, and that's no one's fault. I'm not blaming anyone. Like, I was the same, that you kind of get pushed into the direction of who they think you should be. Like, you're kind of a bit better at maths than you are science, so you go down the maths route, and then it happens very naturally, man. It's not a bad thing. It's the world that we live in. But from my experience, man, the more experiences that I have, the more kind of like I jump on one line over to what my core wants to do, and then I jump again. Then I jump again. You know, I've had sales jobs. I've been the party man. You know, I've been sleeping about. So I've tried all these things that I don't want to do now, what my heart core doesn't want to do. You know, I've started my own e-com business. I had the stresses of my own business, and I've got my own coaching business, and that's even more aligned with my heart. And it's because, like, not all at once. I didn't just suddenly go, boom, I want to be a coach. Let's go. It's like, I just slowly started to listen to that little whisper. I slowly started to, you know, follow my heart and that kind of thing. And it can be harder for some people because they might not have had the same upbringing or the same experiences for me. You know, some people might have just had a single parent, meaning that, you know, they wanted like to provide for their mum, so they want to go straight into work. And that's, you know, I'd say that's beautiful, but just follow what you truly want to do rather than like what you think you should do. And you know, even saying that, what you think you should do, you know, feel into what you want to do, man. And again, it brings us back to that. There is only two kind of emotions that you make decisions from. It's fear or love. Under that, don't get me wrong, you got joy, happiness, fear, you got anxiety, depression, that kind of thing. But it stems, the root of it is always fear or love.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why are you so happy? Would you say you're happier now after you've been on this kind of journey since, you know, being the Jack the lad in the past, and now you're being more of a, I don't know, balanced, I suppose, spiritual? Yeah.
I mean, you know, even you asking that, I could feel my ego want to say, yeah, quicker. But the honest truth is I'm actually so happy with like, with the life that I've lived. I feel so grateful, man. Like,
so what's changed since being the Jack the lad and being who you are now? What's changed since you went on those retreats and started this whole journey?
bro, a lot's changed, but like the honest truth of it is I was very happy being the Jack the lad as well.
Yeah.
Like, I had some good times doing that. Like, don't get me wrong, like some wild nights, you know, and I do not regret any single one of them. So like, so to answer your question, I feel more love in my life. I feel more grateful for things in my life. What's changed is probably the fact that like I've moved away from the perception that people think I am. Like, I live now in Brighton. I was originally from Watford. I moved down to a new city all by myself just because I wanted to be by myself. I wanted to work on my business. I wanted to work in a new city. And at the time, I didn't really know why I wanted to do it. Like, most people I used to ask, you know, I say to them, like my friends, I'd be like, oh, I'm moving down to Brighton. They'd be like, what? They'd be like, why? And I would be like, I don't even know why. I just want to get away. Not even get like, and people like, get away from what? It's like, it wasn't even get away from that because I had a beautiful life at home. It was more just, I think from traveling, I just realized that I could travel by myself and I could do things by myself. So then I wanted to move to a new city by myself. And all these experiences and all these steps kind of have pushed me in the direction of like, of the evolution of me, of my journey. You know, and like going traveling by yourself, it can, you know, I didn't originally go by myself. I went with two friends, but I can imagine like going by yourself and committing to do that, depending on like your experiences and your age, can be a bit frightening. But then what you realize when you could constantly face that fear is actually the most of the fear was just fucking made up in your head. And then it comes to like, you know, less fear, there's more capacity and room in you for love. And more for you to be who you are and be happy. And when I just say love, like, I'm very aware that sometimes like love, everyone's like their toes curl and they're like, fucking hell, get this rom-com maniac out of it. But it's like, you know, love is joy, is happiness, is like freedom, is like, you know, freedom to be yourself and that kind of thing.
Positivity, I guess, is you know,
exactly
what a lot of people would call it. Yeah. Would you say that your life now is more authentic to yourself? Do you know, because you've been on, it seems as if you've been on a fair bit of change. You know, like you said, a lot has changed. Do you think you're more authentic now, or is that just simply maturing, growing up, just the way that people grow in general?
I'm not sure, man. Great question. I think you touched on it when you said, like, I don't know if I answered your first question, but you said change. I think change and evolution is actually a key to happiness. But it's almost like, actually, as humans, we fear change. You know, we finish school. Some people fear going to uni. They fear moving away from their parents, and it's like fear, 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 fear. They fear change. So like for me, it's like I've just always, you know, had enough courage to go and do these things. And, you know, it's a hard one because I think it's a degree of change, a degree of having the courage to do these things, as well as just like being content with where I am at. I've always been pretty present. Like at uni, I was present. I was a happy guy. I suffered with some battles of anxiety and that kind of thing, like, which is all part of my journey. But yeah, I think it's just like living in the present moment and accepting where you are, but always striving for more, because you are capable of so much more than you can currently imagine. So it's like, it's that combination. Funny enough, I just wrote a post today. I'm going to post on my Instagram. And it's like, if you can combine the winning mindset with the spiritual wisdom of detaching from the result, you're going to live an abundant lifestyle. Because there's no such thing as really winning. Like winning what? Like in business, what is it? Being a millionaire, multi-millionaire, a billionaire, a trillionaire? Is Jeff Bezos winning? Like, but he's still got room in the market to grow. So it's like, and like, let's just take sales, for example. You know, when you're setting up your own business, you have to learn marketing and sales. Your first sales call, you're most likely going to fuck it up. But by fucking it up, you learn so much more from it. And then you go again and you go again. And then when you get the sale, that's a win, right? But you know, are you winning? Because the next call you might get not the sale. And then it's like, oh, I'm losing. But if you can detach from that desire of like, oh my God, I have to get this win to feel good about myself. And it's actually like, now I'm just going to win because I'm capable of expanding, and I'm capable of winning, as in just like, because there's no end line to winning, right? Where does it stop? It's infinite. I think our potential is infinite. Like I'm never going to stop growing. Why would I? But then if you can also detach from the fact that like you put your self-worth into that result, then it's just gonna, like, how can you lose, bro? Like if you're just committed to the process of like, I'm gonna keep striving forward, and no matter what happens, whether I get the sale, don't get the sale, I still feel good about myself and I detach from it. It's like, bro, you are never gonna fucking lose.
Here's an interesting question which I've been asking people is, what are your future plans? Do you have a 5-year or a 10-year plan? Because this is something which pisses me off when people ask me this, because I do not have a bloody clue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know where I'm going to be next year, let alone in 5 years' time. So what's your perspective on that?
Well, funny enough, perspective is everything, right? You know, the perspective is like, your perspective is different to my perspective. Everyone in this world's perspective is different. So like your 5-year plan from your perspective is you haven't got one, which is beautiful, because you don't have one from where you're at. You don't have a desire to do something. Your next desire is to go traveling. Boom. Who says to meet a lucky someone traveling, and then, you know, she or he lives in Asia or Australia or wherever it is, and then you move there, and then before you know it, you've got a fucking, you've got the desire to start a business, and then you've got a 5-year plan. So like for me, I never had a 5-year plan, but now where I'm currently at, I do have 5, 10, 15, 20-year plans. Like I don't have it written out, but I know exactly where I want to go, and I have very much clear clarity on it. So 5 years for me, I'm going to have most likely a coaching program where I can bring more people in rather than do one-on-one coaching. It'll be bigger. I also want to be a speaker, going up and down the country in schools, speaking to schools. I want to start in schools first. Schools. I know I mentioned schools about 3 times there. And just keep expanding, like keep growing, keep expanding, making more money, keep reinvesting it into the hood in the UK. Like I have a big goals, and that I want to give back and just keep on giving. So I want to keep on receiving money, and at the same time I want to keep on giving it. And that's the giving and receiving, is like the cyclical movement of money.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You got to like fill your bucket up first before you can fill other people's, right? So it's like, work on yourself, sort yourself out, and then you can, in turn, that will be able to help up even more people,
Exactly.
I've funny enough, I've actually got a school talk coming up in a few weeks, actually, which will be like my first speaking gig, if you like, so that's quite exciting.
Dope.
Yeah.
How did you learn that?
I just got talking to a guy got in touch with me. He's like a careers guy at school, and I just got talking to him. Did like a little sort of podcast talk thing with him on his channel. And yeah, just been talking, hopefully trying to line it up, and it's just been confirmed today, actually. So that's quite
Mate,
cool. Yeah,
congrats,
there we go.
brother. That's dope. That's what I'm saying. Like, who knows? You might love that, and then you go Bali, and you realize actually this is what I want to do, speaking in schools. And then before you know it, you book a few speaking gigs, you make a bit of money, and then that's you driven. And in 5 years' time, you're like, oh, I want to be here. You know what I mean? That's why, like, you just take a breath, man. Wherever you are, just take a deep breath. Like, know that you don't have to have a 5-year plan. Know that if you do have a 5-year plan, that's fucking cool. If you don't, well, guess what? That's cool as well, because like life is just a continuation of the present moment. Like, even though I have a 5-year plan, speaking gigs and all that kind of thing, who knows what I might like go back to Bali and get someone pregnant and I have to stay over there and like look after the kid, right? And then I might be going around Balinese schools speaking, and it's not the UK schools. Like, I don't know. I'm not in control of all of that, and I'm not going to pretend to be in control, because that in itself is just going to create suffering. So I have a 5-year plan, but I'm also very inclined to just say to everyone, just be present, man, as present as you can be. Don't stress too much about the future, otherwise you'll get anxious, and don't worry too much about the past, otherwise you'll be depressed.
100%. That's like the main thing. I say this to people all the bloody time. Just focus on the now, because there's so many people that are worrying about these things, and it's like it doesn't even bloody exist yet. It's literally like a figment in your brain, right? It's not even here. So why are you stressing about it? All of our anxieties or stresses or negativities, they're all either in the past or the future, neither of which exist anyway. So what are you stressing for? Go with the flow.
Brother. Yeah. And that's something that I suffer with, is like anxiety. I put on so much worry on myself because I want to do so much good. I'm like, I need to do this. I need to earn this. So then I can start doing this. And like, that's something that I struggle with. So like, I just want to make that clear to people listening to this. Like, even though I know this stuff and I've read so many books and I've meditated for years and I've got a mentor who I speak to all the time, I still worry, man. And I still do that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's like, choose your heart, right? What would I rather worry about? Worry about like really affecting the world and doing big things in this, or worry about what this person thinks of me? Because I don't know if the degree of worrying actually gets like more harder. The scale of it, it's just still worry at the end of the day.
I mean, from the conversation so far, it's pretty clear that you're incredibly passionate about growth.
Yes, sir.
So this sort of passion for spiritual searching and growth, both things, growth in all aspects, where's that come from for you? Where's the source of all this?
The source. I don't know, bro. Like, when I was younger, I was very competitive with sport. Like, I was in most sports team, winter sports, get me on a summer athletics track. I'm not so good, but like get a ball in my hand, I'd like to think I'm a good sportsman. So like, it starts there, right? I'm competitive. I want to win. I also love being part of the team sport. And then I go uni and I was really suffering with anxiety. Now, my mom's actually a coach, funny enough, and my dad is a businessman. Them together, they've been to Tony Robbins events, so they're always feeding me with good shit when I was younger. Like, even if I wasn't aware of it, like, the more I dive into myself, the more I look back, and I'm grateful for the upbringing that I've had, and actually that aids to my commitment to help change in the world, because I understand that people haven't been as lucky as I have. So it's like, fuck, I actually feel it's my duty to go and serve. But then going to uni, and I suffered with anxiety to the point where like I didn't want to go to the library. I was worrying about this, and my mom was like, "Why don't you just get a coach?" And then I got a coach, and then, that's the start of it. He helped me with my anxiety massively. So even then, looking back now, and I haven't really clocked this until this podcast speaking about it, but it's like, that's given me an insight to the fact that I can bring someone on to make my life better and more happy and more fulfilled. He helped me with my anxiety massively. I had a more happy life. I stopped coaching with him, and it's like, wow, I feel a lot better about myself. And then I go to, live with a monk meditation camp, and I'm learning about meditation, and I'm awareness, and like the fact that I'm not my thoughts, and like, fuck, why am I thinking about a fucking Puss in Boots when I'm like sat in the middle of Thailand? Like, what the fuck? That's so random and shit like that. And then I'm like, whoa, why is this thought coming in? Whoa, that's a nasty thought. Why am I having that thought? Like, oh, imagine I carried that. Oh shit, I probably am carrying that. Like, and all that kind of things. And then that, before you know it, that's brought me onto this idea that I'm not my thoughts. As soon as you think that, you start picking up other books about it. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. I'll pick up that book, and then I'm on to like the next book. And then like, I'm like obsessed with books. I'm reading this shit. I'm like, what? Like, I'm obsessed with getting better. And I know that you can feel that you even said that. And that's because, of all these things, there's no like one fine pinpoint moment. Like I think my parents' upbringing, I think, you know, my coach, I went to some Tony Robbins events when I was younger. They're called Global Youth Leadership Summits, which he run for kids under 17. I even met Tony Robbins once, and I shook his hand. And
What was he like?
bro, he was massive. I shook his hand, yeah, and I was like 13 at this point, and I'm not joking. It was like a fucking bear just gripped my hand. But he was actually on the way to his talk, so he was like had 7 people around him. But he was when he stopped for me, he was so present with me, like, and I know from my own journey that in itself, because presence is actually one of those things that people underestimate, and you get a real sense when someone's truly present. Rather than like if I went down to the local pub and asked everyone, like I went up to them like, hi, introduced myself, and I'm like, do you think you're present right now? 99.9% probably say, yeah, I am. But like the more presence that I get because of the more of my like journey, spiritual journey, emotional journey, mental journey, financial journey, just the whole journey in itself, the more I realize that in a lot of moments I actually wasn't present because I'd be thinking about what they're thinking about, like what they're thinking about me. And you know, there's times when you're talking to someone, then you're like, what the fuck are we talking about? I can't even remember. And it's because you're actually not present, but you can only be as present as you are aware. And most people aren't that aware of like what's going on in their heads. So it's like they're not actually present, even though if I ask that question, most people would say they are present, which is a funny one.
How do you become more present then? You mentioned awareness just then, but is there something that people can put in place to you know, challenge this and get better at being more present in the moment?
100%. Meditation is the best tool. Like it's changed my life. I can't believe, like, I think part of my journey is just to like get meditation out there as much as I can. Because when I was first younger and someone mentioned meditation, I'd be like, are you feeling all right, big dog? I'm not sure about that. But it's like, it is, man. It's literally one of the best gifts I have been given, because it you know, you start hearing things, and rather than like being reactive, like someone says something and you react to it, like kind of actually when you said, are you happy? I reacted to that. I said yes straight away, almost as if it was like obligatory for me to say yes because I'm a coach. And that's when I sat with it once you were talking, and I sat and I was like, actually, no, let me be honest here. And then I was like, yeah, no, I am actually really happy. And it was actually a blessing that you asked that, because I kind of felt into it. And I was like, yeah, I'm so grateful for my life. But it's like, even in that moment, a part of me was unpresent, because then I started thinking about, you know, actually, why did I answer reactively? Because that's kind of not unnormal for me, but a lot less normal. I'm normally much more present in the conversation. I let you speak, and then I let it kind of indulge into it. But yeah, before I get carried away, because I like going off track sometimes, meditation is so important, because then at least it gives you the idea that you are not your thoughts. And then before you know it, you know, things can start happening to you. You might, you know, it's a game, man. It's a discipline of the mind, which is a game. Like you might be out at Tesco's, you know, what was it the other day? You know, on my story I mentioned about having the MMA lesson.
Yeah.
Right. And this guy asked me about like taking my socks off, and I immediately said to him, I was like, oh mate, I haven't even cut my toenails. So and like that is a prime example of me reacting from a place of fear, from a place of like, oh my god, what are people going to think? Like this, and this happens so quickly within blink of an eye. What are people going to think to a guy that's got his like socks off in the gym and he hasn't cut his toenails? Like, oh my god, that's going to look so bad on me, blah blah blah. So then I asked that question with all that going on from a place of fear, from a place of, oh mate, I haven't even cut my toenails. When he was like, I don't give a fuck, man, I'm about to beat you up. I don't care if you've got toenails or haven't got toenails. Like, so like that is a great example of like you reacting from a place of actually there's a lot of shit going on in your mind, rather than you staying present in the fact that actually I'll just take my socks off. It's all good.
Yeah. And you get that. There's so many people I know that whenever something like bad will happen in their lives, they will react, and, you know, it will be outwardly, you know, and they'd like swing their arms in, like, you know, not literally, but, you know, they'll be swinging their arms in like a fit of anger and stuff. And it's like, chill, like come on,
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's just, it kind of frustrates me in some ways, but, you know, I guess that's the mission of what we got to do. You know, we got to spread these kind of messages, have more of these conversations, and get people talking, get people practicing, and hopefully get them living better lives, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, dude. And I get the sense as well that you're like, would you call yourself an empath, or someone that can feel into energies and that? Yeah.
Empathy is one of my leading values. You know, first of all, I think the world would be a much better place if people were more empathetic. But yeah, I'm a massive empath. You know, I connect with people quite well. And I do pick up on their energy quite well.
Yeah, I definitely get that impression. So like you could almost tell when someone's out of presence with you, because like, you know, they might twitch, like, you know, twitch their shoulder, or they look away, or, you know, they do something, and it's actually like, because in that moment there's so, you know, it's like when you ask a question to someone that they're not comfortable with. You know, as an empath, sometimes you can be like, oh, you ask them a question, you see they're uncomfortable, and then you try and save them. You're the rescuer. You're like, oh, I don't want you to feel bad, so let me save you. You know, and yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, anyway, let's move the conversation on now, because we talked a little bit about spirituality. Let's talk about success. And first of all, this is a question which sort of just popped into my head randomly when I was setting up the structure for today's episode. What even is success? What's success to you, Jack?
What is success? To me, it's about giving as much as I can in this lifetime and living abundantly, because that's what my heart desires. So like success, if anything, again, we'll go back to the corny old L word, but it's like, for me, it's like, your success for you, how can you be unsuccessful if you just follow your heart? Like, why do football players make it as footballers? Because they have to work fucking hard. Why do they make it as footballers? Because they love the sport more than anyone else from a kid. Maybe their dad loves their son, you know, I was about to say a little bit more, which, you know, in some cases can be the case, because they'll take their kid out to the park because they see how much he loves it, and they love their kids so much that they want to take him to the park. And then he loves the sport, and he grows up loving it more, and he's training harder and harder and harder, and then he becomes a professional football player. You know, it's the best gift. And, you know, fortunately, unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, we're not all footballers, we're not all basketball players, but like, there's something in you. Maybe it was guitar when you were younger, but then your parents didn't support it. Then maybe they did support it, but then you went, you know, you turned 16 and wanted to, you know, fucking go down to the skate park, and you wanted to give up for a bit, but then now your heart desires to go back to playing an instrument and becoming an artist. So like, success to me would just be like the case of following your heart, as well as just always improving, like growth, man. The universe is always expanding, you know, and everything's always connected. So like, therefore, like, if you're expanding with it, maybe that means going into a new relationship. Maybe that means going on a dating app and getting your first date. Maybe it means going traveling by yourself. Maybe it means starting that business that you want to start. Maybe it means asking for that raise. Whatever it is, it's going to be growth. But for some weird reason, people are so afraid to grow. They're so afraid to change. But if you can just like shift that perspective and just grow, I think that's pretty much success. And then from that growth, you'll gain what the world materializes as success. And I don't not like the material world. I don't not like it. Like, I don't really care. That just follow what's the next best step for you. I would say that's success.
Yeah. Just live authentically to yourself and follow your heart, really. Yeah. And again, I guess that kind of ties into what we were talking earlier about, you know, thinking with your heart over your head. You know, we overcomplicate our lives by thinking rationally all the time, and it's not necessary, is it? You know, like if you think with your heart, and I know that sounds really weird for some people, think with your heart, you know, but you can actually think with your heart. If you bring your presence down towards your chest and into your heart, like, it's hard to describe because it's much more of a feeling, but that actually guides you to the life you want to live. It sounds like some weird, like, you know, woo crazy weird stuff, but there's like I feel like there's a really powerful, like, sort of force in your heart, in terms of like energy. You know, as I was saying earlier, when I was talking to Tobias, we were having a whole conversation about this, getting really deep about spirituality and stuff. And we were talking about how, you know, like, the whole universe is made up of energy. And then we were talking about how consciousness is made up of energy. And basically saying that there's a collective consciousness in the universe, like a big bubble of energy, you know, which is thoughts, which is, you know, on the electromagnetic scale and stuff, and then there's energy which sort of manifests in mass as well. There's all sorts of different energies, but there's also this kind of collective consciousness, and we can really tap into this with our hearts. And that's where that sort of guidance comes from, that sort of higher thinking, higher consciousness. You know?
Man, for sure, bro, for sure. I mean, I love this shit. I mean, it's your heart chakra, right? In spiritual world, they call it the heart chakra, but there's an energy force in your motherfucking heart, guys. Like, let's not even fuck about anymore. Like, it's not even that weird, right? Like, I'm living a more fulfilled life. You seem like you're living a fulfilled life. You know, you had the courage to do your podcast. What's the difference between all of that? It's because you're leading with your heart. It's like, if you're at the moment, you're in a place of fear, you're in a place of lack, or you're in a place of like, oh, you know, I want to go to the gym and look sexy, but actually I'm not going to the gym to look sexy. It's probably because your brain is sabotaging yourself. Everyone want to look sexy and feel beautiful. And sexy doesn't necessarily mean what the world deems as sexy. Sexy to me is like you being fucking comfortable in your skin and just radiating who you are. That's sexy, man. Like, and that's all comes from a heart place. So like, if you think it's moist, like you think it's moist, I feel that it's beautiful. So like, you choose your reality. Like, I'm all in for it, man. I lead with my heart. You know, I make money with my heart. You know, I travel with my heart. I have fun with my heart. You know, the times where I'm not doing that, the times that I don't get a pitch, it's probably because I'm thinking too much about, oh, I want this guy's money. It doesn't come from a place of service. How about I just serve this guy on the call? And then if it feels right for him, then he'll say yes. Like, so as much as I also am aware that people think it's moist, at the same time, just fucking open up your mind and open up your heart to the idea that actually you're missing out on something. You're missing out on a life that is beautiful and so much more gratitude and so much more like, you know, even going into Tesco, just saying, oh, like I walked past this lady the other day, she had a bright pink coat on. And I was like, I just feel really cool to comment about her coat. Brain says, don't fucking do that, man. She's a stranger. Fuck that. Like, and I just said, your coat is sick. And she lit up, my man. Like, she was like, I don't know, 50, 60 odd. She lit up. And I walked away feeling fucking awesome. Because I've just given in this world. I've given her a compliment. She smiled from it. And that's it. So like, you know, yes, it's woo-woo in the terms of like, if you're still, you know, if you're still stuck in your ways, I mean, call it woo-woo. But I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably open enough to it, which brings us on to open-mindedness, man, which you have to be open-minded to this stuff. Because if you're closed-minded, how much are you closing yourself off from? You know, it's
Exactly.
ridiculous.
Well, you know, if you are approaching things with a closed mind, you're not opening yourself up to the opportunity of any change. You're not, and in not opening yourself up to change, you're not opening yourself up to growth. And you're not opening yourself up to growth. You're not opening yourself up to happiness or further fulfillment in your life. You know, so
you see how that's just a continuation cycle of fear. And guess what's happening at the moment? There's been a massive collective awakening of like people that are operating in fear and people that aren't. You know, a lot of, you know, even as advanced we are with technology and that kind of thing, it's like we're actually, as a society, we still very much operate in fear. Why the fuck does no one want to speak on the train? Why the fuck does no one want to say hi to a stranger? In what? Because they're fear of what? Fear of getting rejected, fear of this, fear of that. Like, as a collectiveness, as individuals, but as a whole as well, we actually live in a very fear-driven society still. And that's why it's so important for us to talk about shit like this, because it's like, you know, what's the opposite of fear? Love, courage, that kind of thing. It's the duality of this world. If you're operating from a place of fear, it means that you're not operating in a place of love. Somebody that's further ahead of you in the game, I'm telling you now, the only reason is because they're vibrating at a higher level, meaning that they're operating from a less fearful place than you. Yeah, that's it. So it's like, you know, by you closing off your mind to this conversation or the idea that actually you can think from your heart, and your mind might right now might be going, no, that's a load of whack. Well, just have awareness to it and be like, why is it a load of whack? Be curious. Why is it a load of whack? Who's told you that it's a load of whack? Has anyone ever told you that you can think from your heart? No, they haven't. Well, then how do you know that you can't? And this is just your first time hearing it. But it's that fearfulness of like, oh shit, no, that can't be right, because the egoic mind is here to survive, my man. It wants to survive. So when you hear something like that, it's not going to go, yippee, here's a new idea. It's gonna literally trick you, saying, don't fucking listen to these crackheads because they don't know what they're talking about. And it's saying that, it's tricking you because actually it wants to survive. As soon as you get more connected to your heart, the egoic mind has less and a less say in what it does, therefore meaning that it doesn't survive, which is not worthy of a judgment. Because when I first started my spiritual journey, it's like the ego is such a bad thing, oh man, but it's like, actually you need it there, otherwise you just fucking walk off a cliff. So like you do need it there. It's just about having the balance and the awareness to it again, which is so good for meditation and that kind of thing.
And that's why it's tricky, you know, and that's probably why there's so many people that are living lives which aren't totally happy or aren't totally fulfilled, you know, because it's hard to get that balance right, you know, the balance between love and fear, the balance between the head and your heart, you know, because as you say, the brain is just a piece of hardware which is here to keep us alive. That's all it is, you know. It's not really It's not truly us, there's more of an argument to say that your heart is more of who you truly are.
Yes, sir.
So it's a necessary evil, I suppose you could say, because it is there for a reason.
Definitely, it's part of the evolution.
Yeah, but it's just
who do you learn it from? And that's why getting out of your bubble is so important. That's why traveling is so important, because who are you learning all this shit from?
Yeah.
From a young age, you're learning from your parents, and that's no disrespect to any parents. Every parent does the best they could. Who did they learn it from? How difficult was their childhood? If you're going back to our grandparents' generation, that's World War II. They've lived through a world war, through cold times, and then they're bringing up their kids the best that they can, and their kids get brought up. And now we're here, and we're like a new generation. So it's like, the fear that's stopping you getting out your circle is actually because once you get out your circle, you're kind of getting a new perspective on your circle or your bubble at home. And then the mind doesn't want to do that, because then it's going to have more chance of it not surviving, which is so funny when you think about it.
I think that's why I'm having this calling to go traveling at the moment, is because I did an episode earlier this week. It's called how to reprogram your brain, or so. I titled it something like that. And I spoke about the actual fucking programming we have in our brains. I said our brains are hardware, right? Well, we download software into our brains all the time. And guess where it comes from? Like you say, family, friends, education, upbringing, environment, mentors, I guess you could say as well. Even all the way down to the entertainment which you watch or the content which you consume.
Definitely.
You're constantly downloading all of these, programming. What are you actually capable of? Because if you look at your friends, they say the easiest way to predict your future is by looking at your 5 closest friends. Well, what are your friends like? Do they believe that they can achieve stuff? Because if they don't, guess what? You're not going to be able to believe that either, because you have no proof, or you don't know anything else. So I think that's probably why I'm trying. Like my heart is calling for me to go out there and experience new things, new cities, new people, new places. Because I'm excited to the opportunity of what's out there, and I think that's because I've overcome that fear now. I'm ready for that, and I'm ready for the new opportunities.
Let's go, brother. And my heart is telling your heart to fucking go, because like I've been before, man, and like it changed me so much. And it's so funny because like as soon as I came back and I'd meet up with the lads in the pub, they'd be like, "Wait, oh mate, you found yourself, wait," and I'd be like, "Yeah, do you know what? I like I found more about myself for sure. Like, I mean, you don't, it's like you only know so much about yourself until you put yourself in situations that you don't know about yourself, and then you do find out a little bit more about yourself. I found out more about myself when I went traveling. I found out more about myself when I started my own first business. I found more about myself when I started my second business. Now I'm on to my third business, and I'm finding more and more about myself. And that's why it's like, man, just fucking go traveling. That's what I'm saying. I want to see you traveling. I want to see you on your Instagram traveling.
I will be, bro. I will be. Hopefully, with COVID permitting, but I'll get there eventually. You know what I mean?
Just cycle there, man. I
don't know if I've the capacity for that. A swim. Yeah. Awesome. Let's move on now. Advice for young people, Jack. What's some of the key pieces of, information or experience which you've picked up in your own journey and your own life, which you think everyone needs to know, particularly young people at the start?
Wow. Know that there's a process to it all, baby. Know that there's levels to this game called life. Life is a game and there's levels to it. Like something that I've always struggled with, I think most people do in our day and age, is comparison, right? There might be a kid on here listening to me and you speak and be like, oh my God, they're so confident. But it's like, you have no idea. I mean, one, I'm older than you, so I have more experience, but two, like I've been pushing myself through things for a lot longer period of time than you have. Like if I was a 17-year-old listening to this podcast, I'd be thinking the exact same thing about him. Now, the great thing about you thinking that is actually because a part of you knows that you're capable of being that person on a podcast and speaking with confidence, which is beautiful. But second of all, don't judge yourself for where you're at. I used to always look at older people and be like, he's so cool. Like, oh, he's got like, why am I not like that? Why am I not like that? And it's like, bruh, you're so young. I'm 25, right? And I believe I'm going to live to 100 minimum. So like, I'm only a quarter way through my life. So it's like in the next 25 years, I'll be 50, next 25, 75, then another fucking 25. And then I'll still be fucking pole dancing in Bali at 100. You know,
it's a sight I'd love to see.
So it's like, just don't. The biggest thing is like, the biggest two things that are coming to me right now is don't compare to where you're at, and also start implementing small positive habits. Like I heard Jesse Itzler say it, who's like a billionaire, but like a super switched on spiritual guy, billionaire, like a super conscious billionaire, or at least him and his wife are billionaire. She owns a bloody billionaire company, and he's done some amazing things. But anyway, he just says like, add one good habit a month to your life, and in a year you will have a totally different year. That could be drinking 3 liters of water a day minimum for 1 month. That's a great habit to get into. Like if you drink Coke and that kind of thing, really start supplementing with water. Second one is like, just start meditating every day, 1 minute a day. It doesn't even have to be everyday meditation. I started with once a week. Start once a week, and in 3 years time you'll be doing it every day. And then in 3 years time, if you're 17, you'll be meditating every day at 20. Are you mad? I'll be seeing you in Balinese on that pole if you're doing that. Like, so then it's like one small habit every day, like a book. Maybe read 1 book in a year, or 2 books in a year. The reason that is so like little is because I used to be that person who read 1 book in a year. Now I read around 1 book a month, maybe 2 books a month, because I love it. But it's like, even if you start at that age, the way books work is, if you think, again, everything's energy, thoughts, energy, you're reading a sentence that you've never read before. So your brain is actually downloading new thoughts, new energy. You're reading new things that you've never had before. Therefore, in that moment, you're actually changing the past perception you have of yourself, and you're getting proximity into the author's brain, which is making your brain suddenly think, oh, you know, even subconsciously, all these thoughts about like, oh, I'm not my thoughts, or even listening to this podcast, or even subconsciously the idea that you're reading a book and, you know, you read the author's name, and some dude, human being, has wrote a book. Do you know what I mean? So like, to wrap it up, 1, just don't compare where you're at. Like, just enjoy your life where you're at. Like, seriously, do the next best thing for you. 2, just start picking up small little positive habits. Maybe it's like make your bed, you know, when you wake up first thing in the day. And I'm telling you now, in 5 years time, you will be looking back and you will be seriously ahead of the rest of the average Joe.
It's funny how similar people are on their own journeys. You know, it's strange how everyone follows the same thing. You know, your personal development journey, like you say, could just start from you making your bed in the morning. You know,
100%.
Literally,
effect, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy how, you know, everyone develops in similar ways like that. And then everyone I have on here is pretty similar to a certain degree, because everyone's gone through the same journey. Even though we're such different people and we're so diverse,
yeah, man,
everyone's still on that same path, which is awesome. And I think that's why it's so great to share this stuff, because it, you know, sometimes personal development and going on that journey, entrepreneurship, you know, self-growth, spirituality, whatever, sometimes it can feel lonely, you know, because you are focusing
100%.
on yourself. But
yeah,
you know, it's very much the opposite. You know, it's very much everyone's together in this and everyone's going through the same thing. That's awesome, man. Listen, let's wrap it up now with the final question. And this is a super super subjective and super cliche question, which I ask everyone, but it's always a lot of fun to find out what matters the most to them. So I want to ask you, Jack McCloskey, what is your meaning of life?
Wow. The meaning of life. There's 2 things that come up for me, and I can answer it from my perspective as Jack McCloskey, or the evolution of mankind.
Hit us with both. Come on.
So the meaning of my life is to serve. I want to serve at the deepest level and as big as I can. Like you know, service, right? I think that the purpose of mankind is the ongoing evolution of consciousness, of raising your consciousness and changing, and the evolution of that. And, you know, who knows, you know, are we destined to be living on one planet? I would suggest not. I would suggest this is all part of the evolution. Why has Elon Musk got a real urge and desire to get people to the moon, to live to the moon? Part of the evolution. So I think, you know, with that though, with the expansiveness of technology, at the same time, we have to evolutionize our spiritual consciousness. Otherwise, it's going to be a very destructive world that we live in. So I think like the purpose of evolution as a general, like mankind kind of thing, is just a constant evolution of consciousness and growth. For me, it's service and kind of the same thing, really.
Awesome, man. That's great. That's different answer, to be fair. I get a lot of different answers, but I don't think I've ever had that one before. So that's
Boom,
awesome.
baby.
Yeah. Mate, Jack, thanks so much for joining me for today. It's been a really cool conversation. It's been awesome to meet you. Where can we find you online, like social media and that sort of thing, so people can get in touch if they've got any questions, or just drop you a follow or whatever?
Yeah, dude. I mean, thank you so much for having me, man. I fucking love conversations like this, and you're a super sick host, asking good questions, staying present, that kind of thing. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Appreciate you having me on here.
You're welcome.
They can find me it's just at one Jack McCloskey, which is JackMcCloskey. And because I love the podcast so much, the first 3 people to reach out to me on here, I'm happy to offer them a free 30-minute coaching call with myself. That would just be like, if you're a young person or just a person in general and you felt cool to reach out to me. Like I said, my purpose in this world is to serve. If there's someone listening to this on the other side that could do with 30 minutes of service, then I'm all in for it.
Thanks for offering that, Jack. That's very kind of you to offer that to the listeners. And listen, for all of you listening right now, you better bloody message him, because that's one hell of a nice thing to do. And I think they get great value from talking to you for half an hour or so. So
they will, man. And it's first come, first serve basis. You just snap it up quick.
Yeah. Well, who's listening on the day of release, huh? I'm watching you guys. Yeah. All right, mate. Jack, thanks so much for joining me. And it's been awesome. So cheers. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me.
So there you go. That's the end of the show. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe on your podcasting app of choice, so you can download and listen as each episode is released. If this episode helped you in any way, tell your friends, tell your family, maybe even leave a cheeky review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show. But that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode, released shortly. Take care.